Hello, everyone. This is Christina, the Black Swan Sybil, greeting you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Welcome to our cosmic conversation. We are gathering together for the purpose of crystallizing unity consciousness. Where two or more are gathered in unity, there is a crystal or Christ consciousness, and that is what we are embodying on the planet. I am very excited to introduce to you a very special guest today, Anna Medium.
Hi.
Anna is a spirit guide medium with over 17 years of experience channeling and receiving messages from her own guides, as well as the guides of hundreds of people from around the world. She specializes in spiritual and self-development, reading the Akashic records, karmic clearing, and entity removal. Her soul's calling is to empower others to remember who they are and recognize who they are not, so that they can free themselves from their self-imposed limitations of the mind. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. And of course, I'm on a journey of clearing myself of my own self-imposed limitations of the mind, as I also help others to do that as well. So it goes both ways.
Right. Well, if anyone is not on that journey, please let us know in the comments because...
Well, I do feel like spiritual teachers try to sort of idealize themselves in a way, or also I feel like that can almost be kind of placed on them or expected of them, or they feel like it is, because people tend to kind of do that. It's
Yes.
like you want a sort of perfect leader, but really you're leading your own self, and you led yourself to those people who are spiritual teachers, or they have a spiritual calling, or whatever it is, their gifts are coming through in a spiritual way. They feel drawn to that type of path, and you are drawn to their content. So in a sense, you're following them, you're following their lead in a sense, but not really. You followed yourself to get to that person. So yeah, I know we're going off topic a little bit here,
totally. Yeah.
But I feel like that is really important. People should realize, if I'm allowing them to free themselves of their own limitations within their own minds, that's because I'm also on that journey myself. I'm also clearing myself of that, and I am not, perfect by any means. I mean, in a sense, we all are, right? But I mean, in the sense of, I am not somebody with, no self-imposed limitations in my own freaking mind. I've got plenty of them. I'm just aware of them.
Yeah.
And I'm on the process of removing them. And I have the ability to receive messages regarding the self-imposed limitations that people place on themselves that maybe they're unable to see, they're unable to have an awareness of, because sometimes our own demons, we can't always see them. We need somebody, that has a detached perspective to be able to shine the light on it, right?
Yeah.
And open that door for us, give us that access, and then we're able to see it ourselves, and we're able to remove it for ourselves. So even if I'm doing a session for somebody where I'm doing an actual entity removal and I'm removing it in a sense for them,
right? Still,
as I said, they were drawn to the content. It's still, they were drawn to getting that session, so it still works both ways. If they're not fully allowing it themselves, if they're not empowered to do that for themselves and admit, yes, I have this, I want it cleared out of myself, then there's no way it's going to be removed, so it really is a two-way stream.
It's
right?
A co-creation.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's the best way to put it. Yeah.
We can see other people much better than we can see ourselves, but once you become aware of what you're carrying in yourself, then you can work toward, and of course, we talk about, people being able to see others clearer than themselves. And, that's why you get help. You recruit assistance from other beings, but that, you can't give the other being that power. It's like, you don't have all the power to remove my entities. I can hire you to do that, but I have to do the work, like recognizing them and all the whatever goes along with my journey of removing them. Because if I keep agreeing with them, then what's the point?
You know, people have been conditioned to do that, right? They
Oh,
really have. They're
yeah,
conditioned to just give their power away to a doctor, give
right.
their power away to the psychologist. And oh, Eric and I were just talking about this yesterday,
Yeah.
actually,
You
um,
literally just
in Facebook
almost
chat.
quoted what he said in his video.
Oh, really? Oh. Well, we're, you know, we're in tune, we're in sync.
It is great. And you know, it's funny because I always wear black. I stopped wearing colors like a couple years ago just because I was of my where I was going in my journey, right? So it's
Well,
funny.
black
Eric,
is sorry to interrupt, but
no, no, no.
black is really, really protective, though.
I,
It's a really
that's
protective color.
that's one of the reasons why I began. Anyway, that's a whole story. But Eric wore black this morning for his video,
Mhm.
totally coincidentally, you know. And now you're wearing black, and we're all talking. So you know, when you get like-minded people together, we attract one another, and that's how we've found you, and how we've
Mhm.
you know found the people that how we found Eric and I found each other. And
Yeah.
so, you know, it's I don't know that, like I said, this could be a whole nother topic, but there are things that characteristics or marks that you recognize within, you know, others, and how you are drawn to other people. And,
Mhm.
you know, if you're drawn to this video or to Anna's work, it's most likely because that, you know, there is something there that is asking to be healed and looked at, and you're
Yeah.
able to show that. So, you know, idealizing each other is part of the, you know, the social matrix paradigm that we're in of pecking
Yeah.
order, you know, pecking order. Oh, these people are elite, they get all the
Yeah.
attention, and you should emulate their behavior and look up to them, whereas these people are, you know, garbage, and those are like, we all make fun of them. That's, there's value in everyone, and no one is better than anyone else.
But just like it said in that little bio that you read, you know, my soul's calling is to empower others. Well, that's just extremely disempowering to
Yeah.
say, oh, this person is this idealized, whatever, fantasy kind of person that you cannot be, and they have no imperfections,
Mhm.
and you do,
Right.
little you, you know, that's just belittling, and it's just really, really disempowering for anybody to allow those thoughts in their minds.
Yeah.
um, or there are definitely, you know, gurus. There are definitely some gurus out there that, obviously they are not perfect, but they attempt to, they've kind of bought into that, where that's what they have to be and that's how they have to present themselves. I'm obviously not saying all of them, but I'm saying there, you know, there is a faction of them out there, a fraction of them out there to do that, you
Mhm.
know, who try to put themselves out in this way to appease people because they're used to that system, you know, including, I'm saying that the guru and the people that they'll attract, they're used to that system of, you have this authority figure, this power, who is sort of over you. Even if they're teaching you, you know, valuable things, there's still this sort of like overlord, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and you should take everything,
Yeah.
right? And you shouldn't, from
Right.
anybody, from anybody. There's going to be, you know, parts of my message. It doesn't, and that doesn't mean that my message is wrong. It means there's going to be parts of it that you specifically resonate with, and parts of it that you don't. The parts of it that you don't are for somebody else to resonate with, you know. um so yeah.
Well, you know, we could probably do a whole video on that, but you know, I really would like to get to a special gift that you have for everyone in this who's watching this video, and maybe you'd like to give us a little more background on it and then share it with us.
Yeah, so I have a channeled message, which came through yesterday for this interview, which I was not even expecting. But yeah, I have to give a little bit of backstory here. So actually, my whole life, I mean, actually, my very, very first memory of an event. Okay, so I'm not talking about like Okay, well, actually, I did have this weird moment, and I feel like I am going to share this, where I actually, this is going to sound crazy, but I actually intuitively remembered, but it didn't feel like just an intuition. It felt like an actual memory. I know I had to have been intuitively remembering it, but it was a memory of me being washed by my mother in a sink.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like really young. And then during that same moment, I had this memory of me being in the womb, and this like ba-bum, ba-bum, you know, this like very like deep, um, echoing heart sound, right? And I asked my mom about it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I used to wash you in the kitchen sink when you were really," because this was like a sink,
Yeah.
you know, a kitchen sink. This was not like one of the baby tubs or
Mm-hmm.
like even the bathroom sink,
Yeah.
which makes sense because the bathroom sink is like really tiny.
Right.
But anyway, so okay, so I did have that memory like later on. Okay, but the first memory that I have like always carried with me, I didn't have to like go back later on when I was older and remembered it, was when I was 4. So this isn't like clothing or things like that. I have very early memories of things that I was fond of, things that I liked, toys, clothing, people, but of an actual event that occurred. My first memory is when I was 4 years old. I was driving with my mom to this birthday party. It was at an ice rink. So I'm sitting there in the back seat with my mom driving, and she's just driving and driving and driving in these circles. She's
Mm-hmm.
got to this point where she's supposed to be, and back then, you know, there were no GPSs. So she's got to this point where she's supposed to be, but now we can't find the plaza anywhere where the actual ice rink is, and she's just driving. It was for at least 10 minutes for sure. She's just driving in one circle after the other, and we keep pulling up to these stop signs, and she keeps turning and it isn't there. Well, all of a sudden she pulls up to this stop sign, and then in my head very clearly, my guide, who I was calling God
Yeah.
at that point, but my guide said very clearly, turn right. And what I remember about this memory is I knew exactly who the voice was. I had clearly been hearing this like my whole life. I knew exactly who it was. I knew I was supposed to listen to that. I knew it was going to be saying something accurate, and my mom did too. So my mom has memories before this of me saying things to her and her realizing, okay, that was eerily accurate. So my mom in the car, I tell her, Mom, God says turn right. And she's like, okay, we are turning right. Then, you know, so that was definitely a really good thing about my mom, is she did listen to a lot of my intuitions. But so she turned right, and we drove straight for like maybe 30 seconds, and all of a sudden there's the ice rink that we've been looking for
Right.
like 12 or 15 minutes straight. So as I got older, um so because I was born into Christianity. I know that's one of the questions. We're going to get into that a little bit more, so I won't go into too much detail about that here. But so I was calling them God, right? And I had to like kind of get out of that. Well, so I ended up I went through this really depressing time in my life. Like I was really depressed, and I was just sort of hunkered down in my room and just reading books all day. you know, I didn't want to leave my room. I didn't want to see my family. I didn't want to be around them. And all of a sudden, my mom is like freaking out, like she would do, and she says to me, Anna, you're acting like someone who's depressed. And it was almost in this way, like, stop it, you
Right.
know, like you're affecting me, you know.
Right.
And so what would often happen to me is I would go to sleep at night, and this is some weird ability that I have, but it would also be used sometimes in like a negative way. So I go to sleep, I wake up in the morning, and suddenly I'm just normal, you know, but it was not normal at all. And I still had all of these, everything there, but at the same time, there was like this film, if you will, over things that I just suddenly woke up with the next morning after she said this, right? To protect my mom. I definitely had that. So then this ended up, okay, I can't just sit around, loaf in this depression. What am I going to do? And this ended up turning into, so even though that was kind of negative that she said that, I still ended up using it in a positive way to serve myself. So it ended up being, okay, well, what the freak can I do? And I was so religious, and I had this connection so deeply that I ended up going, okay, so please give me an answer. I need you to speak to me more clearly than you ever have. I need you to speak to me louder than you ever have. I need to know what's up. I need to know what to do right now with myself and my life and my emotions. And I got to figure this out. And also it was this thing of, I want to know who you are. Even though we had been taught exactly who God was, I still could feel that there was something I didn't know. I needed to go deeper with this. So there was this longing and this desire to do that. And then all of a sudden, as I'm just in my room, just randomly, there's this scripture verse coming into my head, like this just whispering voice, if you will. So it's my guide, but coming through in this very like kind of quiet, subtle kind of whispering way. In the secret place, in the quiet place. And this just keeps coming to me randomly as I'm in my room, just periodically, in the secret place, in the quiet place. And I knew, okay, you're telling me, because there's got to be that interpretation, right? You're telling me I can't just sit out here in the open in my room, which was good because I did not know how to create a protected space back then. I had never heard of that. And so I was just being flooded by my parents' energy all the time. Like I was just this open, empathic thing, you know? So I actually went in my closet and I had this old cedar chest sitting there. It was like 100 years old. Different people had it. They had written they had like carved symbols into it and all these different things, right? And so I loved this old thing. I gotten it from this used shop, but it had like a lot of like positive energy on it, you know, which you wouldn't expect from like an old thing that has been like around a lot of people, but this did. Right? And people had like loved on this thing with like all of their engravings they added to it and like extra like pieces of wood and things. So I sat on this and I had my closet almost closed. I left it open like enough where I could see. And I sat there on top of this cedar chest that was in there because I had no space for it in my room. So I sat there on top of it, which I really feel like, you know, it was wood. I really feel like it was cedar, you know, it was grounding, right? And I think the other pieces of wood were probably even from a different tree, like a different type of tree. I don't think the whole thing was cedar. So I feel like this was like almost like a connecting rod in a sense, if you will. So I'm sitting there with my journal. And now all of a sudden this voice just says to me, just one word. He says, listen. I'm sitting there with my journal. I sit there for 2 or 3 seconds, and then all of a sudden, you know, I'm doing what born agains do, which is, oh, Jesus, 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 Jesus. And I'm, you know, singing all the worship songs, you know, We even had one that was in the secret and the quiet place. It was an actual worship song. So that one probably got thrown into the mix. I'm sitting there singing this, and he just all of a sudden interrupts me and he goes, listen.
Listen.
So I wait for, another 3 or 4 seconds, and then I do the same thing again.
Like, that's not listening.
And then all of a sudden he interrupts me and he says, listen, you're singing and you're praying. You're not listening.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, gee, you're right. That isn't listening, is it?
Right.
So then, I had that realization of what listening actually is.
Yeah.
And then I just sat there with myself and with this voice, this pervading energy, right? And I sat there for probably about 10 seconds. And then he started channeling to me. And then at first there was a lot of scripture verses used. At first, the voice was Jesus.
Right.
Because if it wasn't Jesus and it wasn't Father God, and eventually they even introduced Mother God, which was like, whoa, but they were able to do it because I trusted them after a while, right? So yeah, at first they had to use that, right? But it led me out of Christianity, and there's more to that story even that I'll want to get into, but I'll save it for later into this interview. But anyway, they eventually led me out of Christianity. And then for a while, they were still using other names. They were using like God, but one of my guides, like he was coming through as like fairy kings and archangels, Archangel Raphael, King Nixa was one of them. They're coming through as all of these different things. But this one guide, especially in particular, I was so familiar with this guide. This was the one who was primarily speaking to me. Now I call him Mimcat. Ezekiel Mimcat. So his actual name is Mimcat, and then he takes on Ezekiel Mimcat when he's like channeling publicly. So anyway, so I'm feeling the same energy as he's telling me, oh, I'm this person, I'm this person, I'm this person, right? And so it was just like, connect with me, get used to channeling. You're not ready to hear who I actually am yet, and you're calling on these different things, and I'm basically, so it's not I'm lying to you, it's you're calling on this, and I'm not gonna just let anything and everything come towards you. Not that what I was specifically calling on was bad, but obviously negative things could take advantage of me because I was freaking open. I was just like, no protective space and call on everything.
Yeah.
Channel everything. And I was just wide open here. I had no barrier here to the point that it ended up everything was just speaking in my head 24/7. Which was a thing that I had to learn to close that shit off. So he's like, okay, let me step in here and help you out and, channel something real in the midst of, you're also channeling some crap too, So it was a mix at that point.
Yeah.
Furthest thing from knew how to channel properly at that point, but I had the ability and I was being taught slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, I am sitting in my apartment with my mother, because this ended up being a thing that she partook in, and we both ended up leaving Christianity at the same time through this. So she's sitting across from me. We're in the living room of this apartment that we had after we had left my dad, and we're sitting there across from one another, and all of a sudden this really these three really intense energies come up. and they introduced themselves. But then the third one was Mimkat. And when he came up, I was like, oh my God, you're the person who was King Nixa and Archangel Raphael and this one and this one and that one. Because it was the same energy, and I recognized it so clearly. I was like, okay, you are that one. And I could feel this time it was like, no, we're introducing ourselves.
Yeah.
This is who we are. You've been calling on all these other things, and we've had to also, just to protect you and to teach you how to develop your gifts, we've had to step in and go ahead and sort of, you know, be like, okay, you want to call on this one now? All right. And then also there were times when I was actually calling on those actual beings, and I was channeling them too. So even that was a mix. And then I was also just channeling some, negative bullshit. But but anyway, so but this one day they came through, and three of them introduced themselves. So it was Mimkat, Clash Star, and Felika Strina who introduced themselves. And they said, we are the Council for the Assistance to Earth. We're guiding you. We're a much larger council. But there were these four voices that were speaking to me. So then a little later on, a fourth one came. It was Fungitale, but there again, I recognized the energy right away. So Fungitale is the one who channeled yesterday for this interview. So just to speak a little bit about Fungitale, well, the first thing about him and his vibration is that he is extremely calm, and I would say calm-inducing. He emits this very calm, present, really sure of yourself and who you are kind of feeling. He emits a very, very peaceful, slow, kind of hypnotic feeling. And also, he is an elemental. So he is actually an elemental from another planet and from another dimension as well. So he actually operates on a planet that's near this one in terms of, if you think of, okay, we have other dimensions, right? And then we have like physical space, right? So in the sense of, he's in a totally different dimension, but in that dimension, he's near to our Earth, right? And he operates on that planet as an elemental, and he's kind of described his planet too. He's kind of guiding this right now, so he wants me to speak a little about that too. But he describes this planet as actually the light is actually coming from the plants on the ground. The plants give off this kind of iridescent light, this like iridescent kind of blue, white, silvery kind of glow. And not just those colors. He has spoken a lot about white and blue, but the different plants actually give off different vibrations that look like different colors. And also, the thing about him is that, well, he fits very well into his planet, right? Because the thing is, like on our planet, we have elementals that describe the planet. That's what an elemental does. You're going to have an element of water and sun and, moon and sky and earth and trees and all these things, right? And they're going to take on shapes that allude to that, right? So he is actually mist. That is his form. He looks like this like kind of white, sometimes kind of glowing, even mist. Not always glowing though, just for the reason that he's also very calm, right? He's very, very calm. And sometimes a light can be calming, but then other times a bright light can be very almost invasive, you know, or not really make you feel calm. So the thing that the sort of image, the form that he's taken on to describe his planet is mist. And then actually his name, Fengidale, I don't remember them all off the top of my head. I would have to look back at some old channelings, but each, oh God, my brain is.
Like syllable?
It's syllable, thank you. each syllable of the word, Fun-gi-ta-le, is actually a different element in his language. So it's actually 4 different elements that are in his name. And even though he looks like mist, he still considers himself really connected to all of those elements. And when you think about it, I mean, mist is really taking on a really all the various elements. You know, it's air, right? It's still has this iridescent light, like it's so all elements are sort of within himself and his vibration. So anyway, just to kind of give a little bit so people know, you know, who the freak is Fengidale.
Yeah.
If they've never, you know, heard of the Council for the Assistance to Earth before, some people obviously will already be familiar with the Council for the Assistance to Earth. A lot of people do call on the council. But yeah, just to give a little backstory about him, the council, how I met them. And now I'm going to go ahead and read this that he specifically channeled for this interview and for the people who are drawn to this interview. Okay. I am Fengidale of the Council for the Assistance to Earth. It is important at this time to understand something, and I have been chosen amongst the council members as the messenger for this specific understanding you need to have, because I am like a psychologist where I am from. I put beings into deep trances in order to heal them psychologically. And I do feel that I will have to give a little bit of backstory to that, because most of you believe that there is no negativity to be faced on the higher realms. But being on a higher dimensional plane does not automatically guarantee that you are positive. It is more about your awareness level. There are many negative ET races and individuals who operate on a higher plane than you do on Earth. And they have many advanced abilities, such as telepathy, telekinesis, healing, as well as many advanced technologies. So dimension does not always determine whether or not you are a positive being. Your awareness does. I help beings psychologically for many reasons, but the main being that certain positive ET races are attacked at times by negative ones, for the simple reason that negativity enjoys attacking positivity. Why am I speaking about this now? Because negative energies from higher dimensions like to pose as positive energies. And this is something that your current government and your current leaders practice on an ongoing basis with you. They like to pose as positive when in fact they are negative. They like to say positive things, but do negative things, behind the scenes especially. They put on a face in front of you and in front of the cameras for the media to display. The media is a weapon of mass awareness destruction. It is a hypnotic machine. How does hypnosis work? Hypnosis works with repeating certain phrases and words over and over again. If you continue to repeat certain words and phrases, eventually a person's psychology begins to break down, which means it begins to allow these words in. It no longer disallows them in. And the more a person stops disallowing and starts allowing certain phrases and words heard or seen repeatedly, the more their guard goes down psychologically and the more easily controlled they are. So the media is just a hypnotic machine designed to control your mind into believing whatever it decides. I want to give you an empowering message along with this understanding. The mind is capable of anything. 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 The mind is capable of anything, of anything, of anything. Repeat this to yourself. My mind is capable of anything. My mind is capable of anything. My mind is capable of anything. That is why I am a master of hypnosis and psychology, because they may use it in negative ways to control others, but we can use it in an empowering way to unlimit others, to manifest their true potential. I want you to understand how powerful you are. I want you to understand that whatever is presented before you is simply a picture, and that is all. When you look down at your body, it is an image, a mental image. That image will change according to your mind, according to your beliefs. Everything that you have ever experienced was simply a picture that came out of the infinite mind through your equally infinite and limitless mind. You are limitless. This is why they want to use your mind. This is why they want to present disturbing images to you. This is the reason they want you to feel and believe that you are powerless and helpless, because you are not. You are the exact opposite of that, and they know it. So their aim is to keep you in a state of victimhood and in a state of complacency. And they want, most of all, to remove you from your peace. This is why meditation is such a powerful tool, because when you practice meditation, you are learning how to control your mind. If you want to succeed in life, whatever that means to you, you must learn to control your manifestation vehicle, which is your mind. Your life is mind. And this is not simply law of attraction I am referring to here, although that does play a small role. What I am meaning, though, is that each and every single image you are seeing or in any way sensing around you is a still image projected by your own mind. One still image after the other, creating the illusion of time, creating the illusion of motion, creating the illusion of life. But life is just one still constant image, and you get to decide the image your own mind will paint. Okay.
That's excellent. Excellent.
Whew. All right. Drink some tea now after reading all that.
So I think that people will really benefit from hearing your perspective on, what's going on in this world, what your intuition says, what the council says about how to keep your vibe up, how, clearly we manifest with our mind, right? We manifest with our mind, which our emotions follow. It's all connected. So what advice do you or the council have to people watching this video about how we're going to create the optimal timeline or reality that we want to see?
Well, we do need to remember that it's all in our mind, just like what he was saying. And that is what they're trying to use. And one of the big takeaways from that channeling is when he specifically says that they are trying to remove you from your peace. That's a huge thing that the media is trying to do right now, that all of this appearance of chaos right now in the world, because like you said, it's all images, right? So they're trying to, the leaders of this world leaders, but they are the negative leaders of this world, right?
People we've given our power to.
Yeah, there's negative and there's positive leaders here, obviously, because we are still deciding what we will be led by. That's the only reason that there would be negative, false leaders as well as positive ones. And obviously we can shift fully into just letting ourselves lead ourselves. And also obviously through positive leaders that we decide on, right? But right now, currently, they are sending us a lot of negative images, a lot of disturbing thoughts, a lot of just disturbing vibrations in general. They're almost sort of trying to train us to view disturbances as normal.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been doing that for a really, really long time with the media, as he said. So the media for ages now, if you'll notice, this is something everybody says, well, the media doesn't talk about positive things. The media says negative things. And people always say this excuse, right? And this, I know this is something that the council really wants me to point out. People always have this sort of pat on the back for the media. They have this sort of, they give excuses to the media. Well, that's because of us. That's because if the media were just putting out all positive things, we wouldn't buy it. They would have no views. Their views would drop. We need this drama. So that is our conditioning talking, though. That's not our true selves talking. And that's not even just us, like our conscious makeup talking. No, we do not want to be disturbed all the time. No, we don't. We don't want drama 24/7. We don't want to be watching dramatic TV shows and all this stuff. And one thing, this is getting a little bit advanced here, okay, but one of the deeper teachings of the Council of the Assistants to Earth, as you get into it more, but we'll just say it kind of basically here, is, well, you have your various bodies, right? You have your mental body, you have your emotional body, you have your energy body. You also have your astral body and you have your physical body. Well, your astral body is similar to your physical body in that your physical body is the body that you are operating through here. It is your vehicle that all of your bodies are in, including your astral one. Well, when you step out into the astral plane, you still have that kind of idea of a physical body, of a shell, right? That's holding your energy body, your mental body, your emotional body. So the astral body, when you go out into the astral, that's your shell. Just like here we have this physical shell. So that's what the astral body is. But so anyway, so you have these various bodies, right? So the astral's role is just it contains those bodies, right? But your emotional and your mental body, they are designed for specific sort of realms, you could say. It's like they have certain territories. This is your job. This is what you're supposed to do. This is your job. This is your designated role. This is what you are supposed to do. And the physical body has that as well. The physical body has its designated role. Now, obviously, the astral body would too, but we're not familiar enough with the astral right now. We're not going out into the astral all the time. Once we get that advanced, we're going to figure out, oh, this is what my astral body is leading in all of this, right? We don't, that's kind of irrelevant at this point, though. But your physical body is supposed to tell you, my physical body wants to eat this. Now, does our physical body lead that? No, not generally. Generally, we have been programmed to desire food. Well, that's an emotion. We have been programmed to feel low emotionally and therefore to eat. The whole, my boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with me and now I'm going to eat 2 buckets of ice cream. There's that whole stereotypical cliche thing we're always presented in
I've never
movie
done
after
that.
movie. Well, and then we do it, right? Because it's always presented to us. They always show us that. They give us that feedback.
Right. It's programming.
Right. So that's an emotion. So what does that say is primarily leading your physical body's decisions. It's your emotions. So the emotional body primarily leads the physical body's decisions. Now let's get into the mental body. So for most people, it's almost like most people are not going to go for the water. They're going to go for Coca-Cola or some sugary substance, right? Rose, do you still hear me? Okay. Oh, I lost your audio.
Well, there's sewing outside, so I've been muting, but yeah, you
Oh.
froze for a second, but
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So then there's the mental body. Well, in the same way that our physical body is controlled by our emotional body now, and we end up going for these sugary beverages and things when really our physical body is like, no, I want hydration. I don't want sugar and caffeine and poisons and toxins and all that crap. Just give me some good old clean, old-fashioned hydration. Give me the water. Give me the good stuff. Give me herbal tea. Give me kombucha. If you want something that's kind of soda-ish. Don't give me that crap. But our emotional body entrenches into the physical body this need for that.
Right.
So what does that show? That shows that the emotional body has overlapped and overextended into the physical body's designated area. This is your slot here, physical body. This is your slot here, emotional body. But the emotional body has been taught, has been trained and programmed to, okay, I'm going to slide into this area more and more and more and more and more and take it over. Well, then it becomes negative. It's not because the emotional body is negative at all. The emotional body serves us just like all of our bodies serve us. It's there for a reason. We have emotions. We have to learn to respect and value those emotions, release them in the proper way, Mm-hmm. And they also help to guide our life. You can get negative and positive feedback from your emotional body, just like your other ones. Just like you get a stomach ache from your physical body when you eat the wrong thing, or even sometimes when you're around the wrong person and you take in the wrong energy. Sometimes your body can actually give you that feedback in a physical way. So they're all there for a reason. They all give us feedback. But then going into the mental body. So again, this is like typical people, so most people right now are not going for the good stuff. They're not going to watch this interview. Most people, I'm saying, they're not. They're watching the news.
Yeah.
They are watching the drama on TV, and they're watching the things that it like puts the emotional body in this fixated hypnotic trance, but a trance in the polar opposite way of how Fengidale would induce it. And he would send you peace, he would send you loving energies, he would send you empowering feelings to sort of entice you or pull you into your true state, your true self, your empowered self, your empowered state. These want to do the polar opposite of that. They want to entice you into this dramatic feedback.
Right. Well, what you're doing right now, you're deconstructing how the matrix works. I mean, they muddle all of our bodies so that we don't have any, it's like putting a magnet near a compass. Mm-hmm. With their programming and the food that they produce. I mean, all of these aspects of this reality and under these people that we've given our power, we have given them permission to disrupt the true nature of our humanity. And what you're doing basically by calling that out is describing how to extract yourself, diet, food, water, decalcify your pineal gland, take care of your physical body, because, that's most obvious, which leads to the next step, which is healing the emotional body because of this trauma that's been heaped on us.
Yeah. Well, the first thing, I do need to get into the mental area. But yeah, and then I'll get into, how do we do that, right? With the emotional body. But so then with the mental, the mind, now your intuition, so that's your energy body. So I got to go into the energy body a little bit. So your energy body, that governs your intuition, okay? Your real self, okay? And your real self comes to you with your intuition. So the energy body, not the emotional body, not you emotional body, energy body. The energy body is the one that governs all bodies. It's the governor. It's the president, right? The leader of but the true leader, not the false leader, like we have here in so many cases, but the true governor, right, that governs all of these bodies, that gives guidance and feedback to all of the bodies. And all of those bodies are meant to be tapping into that and listening to that. So like he said, meditation is a powerful tool. Well, meditation isn't just a powerful tool for the one reason he said, even though that is 100% true and equally valid and an equal point to make, but it's also equally helpful for the reason that it brings you into your energy body. It detaches you from these other bodies, which is a really good exercise to do. Stop thinking about your senses for a minute. Stop thinking about your physical body and what it wants. If it's thirsty, or it wants to go to the bathroom, or this or that, or the other. Right. Just sit there and detach from it, and that will actually go away. If you really tune into your energy body, you're going to forget that you had to go to the bathroom. You're not even going to feel it anymore. And you are going to, forget that, oh, I was sad, or, I was angry, or, oh, my mind is just, my mind is racing, and you're going to start to tap in more and more. Now, sure, all those things are going to be happening at first, especially, but you can train yourself eventually to get into this space where you can hold it for longer and longer periods, where you're just in your energy body. So when people say, that they tap into this sort of nothing zone, in a sense, where there's like no space, no thought, and they're talking about holding the space of no thought for longer periods of time, or as long as they can, well, that's not a realm of no thought. That's just, in a sense, but that's just, you're going into your energy body. Suddenly you're in this one body, you're in your energy body, and you're feeling that body. That's the space where there's no thought and there's no emotion. There's just knowing.
Yeah.
And there's no physical need. Oh, I gotta, run to the bathroom. I gotta run to the gas station.
Yeah.
My body needs fuel right now. Right. So that's really what they're really doing, is they're just tapping into their energy body. And so that's also why it's another really, really powerful tool, because your energy body gives way to your intuitive feedback, and your intuitive feedback is the one that responds to all of these bodies and says yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and puts them in check, right? So they're all supposed to be like filtering through that body, and that body is helping them to filter out what serves them, what doesn't serve them, right? So it kind of acts as a filter, in a sense, right? It gives feedback to all of these various bodies, yes, no. So getting back to the mental body. So even though obviously most of the people watching this interview, they're going to be drawn to a lot of things that are in alignment with their true mental body. And in general, people coming to this video are obviously going to be listening to their intuitive selves a lot more. Okay, but there are still plenty of areas in our mental body. I know everybody coming to this video can think of ways where their emotions guide their mental body. So your mental body is, well, what are you envisioning, right? So this is not just, oh, I'm sitting in meditation and I'm engaging with my mental body to practice law of attraction or think about the things that I want to create, you know, or I'm journaling affirmations or whatever. Well, that's great. That's a great time with your energy slash mental body, right? But no, this is what are you envisioning? Well, like for instance, I have this freaking stupid entity where every time I'm at the top of the stairs, all of a sudden it gives me this image. I'm gonna tumble down the stairs.
I have that same vision.
Really?
Yes. Years. And anyway.
Or I'm holding Isaiah and I'm at the top of the stairs. Oh, Isaiah's going to fall. Or we have this like balcony at our stairs. Oh, Isaiah's going to fall off the balcony. And I'm like, how is that even possible? He's in my arms. I'm holding him. He's not going to fall off the freaking balcony. Anyway, this thing loves to send this image into my mind. Okay.
It would love to create that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So now it would never be able to create that. And why? Because I'm detached away from it. I'm like, you freaking stupid face entity. Yeah, I know what you are. But a lot of people, they don't know that. They think it's themselves. They identify with their entities, their negativity. They identify with all of it.
Or they're so detached from themselves that they are so distracted that it can catch them off guard. This happened to me. You know, they slip and fall because they're thinking about, they're not in the now.
Yeah. So, you know, what you're envisioning, this happens on a constant basis. Like what you're envisioning is, what are you thinking about?
Right.
So what you are thinking about primarily, well, it's obviously going to be based off the entities that and the thought forms that you're containing in your vibration and attachments, cords to other people that you have. So that can actually give you really good feedback to know, oh, okay, that's not me. Where's that coming from? And then you can go into meditation and say, okay, energy body, intuitive self, guides. What is that? Right? Okay. But so your mental body though, like when you're envisioning something, in other words, this happens all the time, right? This is something that we do on a constant basis. It's just what scenarios are you dwelling on, and that is going to be based off, yes, your entities, your thought forms, all of that. But then what's feeding those entities? What's feeding those thought forms? And so this drama that we constantly plug into, and this is not just the news, okay? This is also those sitcoms and those really violent shows. Now, I'm not talking about the one where you know, because violence can be a part of life. So I'm not talking about the ones like The Matrix or something, you know. Well, a lot of people would be intuitively drawn to that film, even though there's also a lot of violence in it, because it's in the midst of the chaos, it shows you this truth, and it says, this is who you really are in the midst of all of this chaos, you know. So like Neo, his old self dies, his true self emerges, and suddenly he's this limitless being. Right. And he realized these robots don't have to control me anymore. These AI don't have to control me, or these entities don't have to control me. These thoughts that I once agreed with, they no longer limit me. I'm going to do whatever the freak I want to do, right? So it's not to say, you know, violence cannot show something, or you can't be drawn to something that might have some kind of violent content in it, because then you would basically just watch nothing, right? Yeah. I mean, even in the channeling that I read, he was speaking about the negativity that exists. Yeah. So it's not saying deny the negativity, right? Yeah. But what it is saying is, don't watch something that has no intuitive resonance, no intuitive info there for you, that you're not feeling intuitively, you know, that you're just like, oh, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to eat my popcorn, you know, and
Zombify.
oh, what is the ninja doing now?
Yeah.
Oh, is she going to marry that guy? You know, and notice you're eating half the time, you
Yeah.
know. Most of the time you're eating, so you're feeding your emotional body is getting huge in like all of these ways. It's like, okay, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna drink my pop, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna eat my popcorn, or eat my candy, or my whatever the hell. And your emotional body has probably decided.
Yeah.
You know, I've gotten to a point where I try to intuitively pick a movie, and then at the same time, even though a lot of times I'll eat, because that's like that's like a break for me, when like my eating time is like a break, you know. So maybe it's not the best still that I watch something, but at the same time I'll make a salad, you know. I'll make you know, I'll make something that I intuitively feel to eat, and I'll try to sit there and watch something that I intuitively feel to view.
Yeah.
You know, so I might still be giving into this way of doing things still, but I'm still you know, selecting, okay, maybe the entity is going to come through, but
Yeah.
and I'm still watching something and eating at the same time, which you know, in some ways I feel like those don't always go hand in hand, you know, because that can really affect, depending on what it is you're watching, it can so greatly affect the way that food digests and settles, and how the nutrients of it goes into your body or doesn't go into your body, just how it affects you. Right, because you're watching these images, and you're feeling things about it, and you're thinking things about it, and you're putting yourself in that energy. So I feel like that's something that people really need to understand too, is that whatever you're watching, you're immersing yourself in that energy. Well, is it a higher energy? Is it a kind of neutral energy, which that can be okay, or is it like a really charged low energy that's like just, it's disturbing and it's meant to be disturbing, or is it just this addictive substance?
Yeah.
That's how people need to look at news, but also these sitcoms,
Yeah.
talk shows,
All of the programs.
drama shows. It's like, you know, those shows, like, now again, maybe your intuition can choose to watch one of those, so that there are obviously exceptions, right? Truth can obviously be delivered in these creative forms of film and art and these
Right.
things, but most of the time,
Yeah.
most of these, they have this, like, you know, catch at the end,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh no, you gotta watch the next one.
Right.
Now you're like, oh, what is Emma gonna do?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's
And you have to know yourself.
by the monster.
You have to know
Sorry.
yourself, you know, what are your pitfalls? You know, there's a scripture that just came to mind, and it's about bridling yourself, right? I don't remember exactly what the scripture says, but it's like bridle your heart, bridle your tongue, bridle your mind, or whatever. But all of these,
Yeah.
you know, we have to know ourselves so that we can, I mean, if we want to exit the matrix and create, you know, I keep calling it that, but whatever, this reality where we're disempowered, and we want to create a reality where everybody has their needs met, and we have this paradise love and bliss and happiness on earth, you know, we are creating that, each of us individually. And what we have to do is know ourselves and bridle these urges that we have that have come from outside of ourselves, so that we can no longer feed it and feed this other thing. So even social media, you know, it's like, yeah, we can talk about what's going on and stuff, but if, you know, pay attention to how you feel about it. If it's causing feelings, then, you know, really, is that the kind of feeling you want to live in, you know, continue living in forever? Because if it's not, then turn it off, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sorry to say that right now, currently, the earth plane is just full of this. We're constantly bombarded with this. So right now, like, the way to stop this, you know, our emotional body just expanding into every other area, even our intuitive one,
Yeah.
You know, like for instance, a lot of women, they'll think, oh, my intuitive self is telling me be with this really crappy person. And it's like, no,
Right.
that would be your emotional self is giving you the feeling to be with this person. And you're so used to listening to your emotional body's feedback over your intuitive body's
Yeah.
feedback in this area, you know, of different relationships, because maybe you were taught that by your parents, or, you know, previous boyfriends or previous marriages or previous lifetimes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up, this is where people are like, oh, but my intuition told me that, and then I fell flat on my face. That's like, okay,
Yeah.
you need to really understand that your emotional body, when you allow it to overlap into your energy body as well, then
Yeah.
your negative emotional feedback can end up feeling like a false intuitive feedback. You can end up thinking this is a genuine intuition, but actually that is really important feedback right there. When your intuitive self, you
Yeah.
think, gives you something and you fall flat on your face and you're like, why the hell did that happen? My intuition told me to do that.
Right.
Well, that's one of the most important feedbacks you can get, because that tells you right there, okay, now not only has my emotional body gone haywire in my mental and my emotion, my mental and my physical body, yeah, and my emotional body too, because I'm not taking any intuitive feedback into my emotional body and letting it filter. I'm just giving into my emotional self all the time. So yeah, your emotional body too. But now now it's also entrenched into my intuitive self, my intuitive body. And now, now my intuitive feedback is getting through this emotional energy that's now there encroached on its space, you know? And so now my emotions start to feel like my intuitive self, and my emotional feedback starts to feel like my intuitive feedback. And if you can catch that and begin to learn to distinguish that, you know, which really starts with you just really setting time for yourself to really just get in touch with your energy body. You know, that's where it starts. So again, we're back to meditation being a tool. So that's one thing, is meditating, focusing on your energy body. And it doesn't even mean like maybe you don't have a lot of time to sit and meditate, but meditation is about getting in touch with your energy body. So it doesn't always mean that you have to totally detach from what's going on around you or from your physical body. Maybe you're doing laundry or you're doing dishes or whatever. Well, you can use that space to reprogram yourself, because I know, for instance, a long time ago, my God, excuse me, I would be doing the dishes, and well, dishes from the time I was a kid. This was something that was really charged, just because of the way that my parents did chores and taught me how to do chores, and also because sometimes I'd be almost forced to do chores that I didn't feel to do, and that like weren't my responsibility to do. It's like the sink piles high with everybody's, you know, 200 dishes, and it's like, okay, go wash the dishes, and I'm like, oh, thanks. you
Yeah.
know you know
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
yeah. So I ended up, like, for years I would notice this like charge when I would do dishes. um I'd be doing the dishes, and all of a sudden my mind is just like, and all of a sudden my mind is going into that person 5 years ago. What the freak was up with that person 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years ago? God, that thing that happened to me when I was 5, you know. And it's like,
I do
and then
know.
all of a sudden, like, I catch myself and go,
Wait, what?
I don't even know that person. from when I was 5 anymore. I don't even know what they're doing now or anything, or like I'm like on totally good terms with this person now. I'm like, I mean, we're fine now. Why? Like, I really want to put this energy out. So what do I want to, what am I trying to do here? Create like
That's your
new
unhealed
like
energy.
beef vibe with a person I've been totally
Right.
good with for years.
It's coming up to be healed. It's coming up to be integrated.
Yeah, but it's like you're so programmed like, oh, I'm doing the dishes now and my mind is just going to take off in like 50 billion freaking directions, and then there's like no stopping it. There's no control. So I'm standing there doing the dishes, and then not only would my mind take off, but I would notice I would get this pain in my back in this specific place. And then after years, finally I was like, finally it dawned on me, oh, maybe ask what is this pain? And then they're like, oh, that's a big thick cord going to your mother. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Can you cut it?
Well, some cords with my mother, I've had some trouble cutting, or it's like you cut the thing, but it comes back. Now, why would it come back? It's because, well, you can't have a cord. Your real self cannot have a cord. So what has a cord? There has to be something in you that has a cord through something in that person. So this means that either you've got an entity attached to an entity in this person, or you've got a thought form attached to something in this person. So that's the thing. I get rid of the cord, but then the cord has come back a few times, and it honestly hasn't been until recently. Now it's been quite a while where I'll do dishes and I feel present, and I'm thinking about things that I want to think about. And now, like, I've even been listening to your interviews, which is like a huge thing, because if your mind is going off in a million directions, you think you're going to be listening to that interview in the background. No, it's just going to become this like background, and then all of a sudden you catch yourself and go, wait a minute, what have they been talking about for the last 20 minutes? So I couldn't have done that back then. So now the fact that I can listen to a freaking interview really shows me, wow, Anna, you are very present. And so now it's so that's been like that for a while. But now I've finally started, more and more recently, I've gotten to a point where I've been able to do like actually hand wash dishes, not just put them in the dishwasher, but I can actually stand there and hand wash some for 20 minutes or half an hour without getting this ridiculous back pain. Because for years, even after my mind was more present, I would still get this bad pain in my back. And so I would have to only do dishes in the dishwasher. And sometimes there's like a little bit left over, and I wouldn't be able to do like any of them, because if I stood there and did one, this would come back in my back. And I'm like, and it makes no sense, right? It can't just be you're doing the dishes, because
it can, if you're, if you've had physical, because to me the back represents lack of support.
mm-hmm.
And my awakening began, but part of my awakening was injuring my back. So
Yeah.
if you have a physical energy that an injury that is manifested
Right,
in
yeah.
the physical body, and you're doing these, but before that, my back hurt ever since I was a child. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it can hurt, but it's not just, anyway, but yes.
Well, what I'm saying though is for me, for what I was doing, it didn't really make any sense to me, because why can I take all the dishes, bend over, put them in the dishwasher, bend back up, grab more, and I'm doing this over and over. But now if I just stand there and I go like this, suddenly I have this huge pain in my back that hurts me for the entire day, because I went like this to one dish. And I was like, okay, I can load up the dishwasher 15 times,
Yeah.
and my back I will feel nothing. But we didn't have a dishwasher. We didn't have a dishwasher at the house, which is why we had to do all the dishes by hand. So yeah, it was so bad that if I started to just do one dish, I would feel this pain. And I was like, this don't make no sense.
Right. So that action, that physical action, is causing your stuff to come up.
Yeah. All of a sudden it gives me a pain from cleaning half the dish. Even if I drop it, and don't continue it, I would have the pain for the entire day. I was like, what the freak?
Yeah. So I think people need to know that, right? They need to know that when you experience something like that, that is your opportunity to stop and say, hey, wait a minute, and feel into that feeling and say, where is this coming from? What does this remind me of? What is it saying to me? So that you can just nip it. I mean, almost nip it in the bud right there. That's kind of but you can start to address that issue so that you can be free from it.
Yeah, and also a lot of people identify with things like that as a just like a physical thing.
Yeah.
Well, I had this injury, and sure, you can have an injury, right? So, for instance, after, especially after my second pregnancy, I don't know what they did with that epidural, man, but especially after my second pregnancy, I had this bad epidural pain. But what's crazy is it was in the exact spot.
Yeah.
It was in the exact spot that I had already had this pain.
Mm.
So then, even after I had a little while of not having the back pain when I did the dishes, now I give birth, and now all of a sudden this is really, really showing up here. And now for a while again, I couldn't do the dishes without that. Well, finally I get it to cut again, and then there's a little bit of time where I can do the dishes. But then I had my third one, and then it came up again, and then this almost felt, when I had my third one, well, I really felt like my body was like, okay,
Yeah.
take a break, we're done with the baby having.
It's interesting. If your mom had an epidural, that could be where that cord decided to attach because of her focus on that area in connection with you.
Maybe. Yeah, my mom had an epidural, and then she had a cesarean. So to have me. So yeah, you're right. Maybe maybe.
I think it's just a suggestion, I mean, I don't know, I like the psychology of things, how things work, why things are the way they are, and these.
Well, what's weird is that it was kind of in the general area, but it wasn't like it was in the exact spot where they gave me the epidural. It was further up. But after the epidural, that spot was coming up so bad. And I was associating it with the epidural, and that's what it wanted me to associate it with.
It wants to continue the cycle.
Right. Yeah. But that's just showed, okay, you still have this, even if you break the cords, you still have this basis of this thing that's there that wants to just build the cord again. So like a lot of people are like, oh, I did this cord cutting, I feel so much better. And then a week later, why do I feel like crap again? Why do I feel like all these things from this same person again? That's because cord clearings, they really don't do that much. If the person doing the cord clearing doesn't understand the cords are not to you.
Yeah.
They're not to you.
Yeah.
They're not to the person. They're to the thing in you, in the person that the cord is attached to, because you don't have cords, So if they understand that and they actually remove the thing that it is connected to, of course, for me, I haven't really found somebody else who can do that. So it can be a little bit harder to remove your own entity and your own cord, but eventually I got to a space, but this is more recently. But yeah, after this third one, it felt almost like permanent. It felt like this thing wanted to take this like permanence, but this was like its last stand. But then I was able to start really clearing it. And I actually think that it's more than one. I think it's like a group, going back to my mom, because I definitely cleared some. So now if the pain comes back up, it's like a lot more mild. and I'll be able to do dishes for like a half hour or so. And either it just won't come up at all, or if it does, it's like very mild and it doesn't bother me for like the whole day like before. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've gotten rid of the majority of you. And there's like one or two like stragglers in there,
Well, I can tell you that Eric and I are doing something similar with ourselves and with your help. So, I mean, if your guides, ask your guides if you think that that we could help you with that.
Well, that's definitely a possibility. Yeah.
And if just let us know. But that's what we're here for. We're here to help
Yeah.
each other. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and unless if you if you're willing, I'd love to do more videos with you, because
Oh
I
my
think
God.
that
Yeah.
this has
Yeah, we
been
totally should. And yeah, I would love to do a video where I did get like more into my story and all of that. I know this one, like
well,
this
I
one,
mean, you know what? Let's
the
do it.
council is and how our guides are. They're like, you know what though? We're gonna do this channeling
Okay.
for the.
Well, I think it's important and it's timely,
Mhm.
and people need that. So, let's just go ahead and set it up. And I think people should know that on the topic of entities, I wrote a blog post, and it was based on my personal experience, but also, I recorded that conversation that we had in your group, and that is attached to that blog post. So if people want to learn more about entities, they should definitely check that out. But
Yeah. Hmm.
otherwise, tell us where to find you. Where's your content? How can we reach you and connect with you and your stuff?
Okay, well, there is my YouTube channel, which is just on a medium. There is my Patreon, so that's where we had that conversation. We had that in a group discussion um, in our Patreon group. So in that group, like I would say, I go into a lot of details, and we have a lot more sort of intimate conversations, I would say, where we get to know each other a lot more and speak more in depth about entities and entity removal and just a lot of different spiritual topics in that group. So for somebody who wants to go deeper, I would say they can also look into my Patreon. So that's also on a medium. So patreon.com/on a medium. Um, and then yeah, I think that's it really. Well, there's obviously my website. So that's for people who feel like they would want to get a session with me. They want to do entity removal. They want to do energy clearing, karmic clearing. They want to look at their past lives. They want to hear from their guides, get to know their guides more. So that's my website. And there again, it's on a medium.com. So it's very easy on a medium. You want to find me on a medium. The only place where it's any different is Instagram, which is Mama Medium. 333, my three kids, Um, but on there, I'm working on generating more content, getting a little bit more active on there. So mostly it's my website, my YouTube, my Patreon, where I'm the most active.
Well, we will definitely put the links to all those places
Yeah.
everywhere I post this video, including where it's just audio. We'll put that on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And, we will make sure everybody please subscribe to Honest channels, and mine too, and get notifications.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that we'll do another interview, and hopefully we'll do more than one.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And like you said earlier, I'm easy to talk to, you're easy to talk to, so
All
this,
day.
yeah, yeah, exactly. We could do this all day. We could do this. We could do this for 10 hours. So
Well, I would like to thank you, Anna, for joining me, and thank everyone for watching this video. Before we go, I would like to do two things. First, I would like to ask if you want to share your experiences with the world in an interview like this for the purpose of expanding collective consciousness, to reach out to me wherever. Black Swan Sybil is my monikers, and it's like on a medium, it's all the same. It's Black Swan Sybil everywhere, SIBYL. But maybe you could read the mantra that Fangitale gave, where we could repeat after you: my mind
My mind is capable of anything.
Mind is capable of anything. Maybe we could ask people to repeat right now before we end this video.
My mind is capable of anything.
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 Okay, he wants us to say this 9 times.
Okay.
All right.
I'm down
So
with
let's
that.
say it 9 times. Well, nine's a good number.
It's a
Endings.
good number.
All right. So he's also saying for us to get into a meditative space. He's saying that's how this works. It works when you are calm, when you induce yourself into a calm space. So first he wants us to take 3 deep breaths.
Okay.
My mind is capable of anything.
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 All right, and then we're going to take one more deep breath and we're going to let it out really loud. All right.
That was awesome.
So I felt like that last breath, that's like this like clearing breath. You're gonna like, after saying that like mantra and you're like inducing yourself into this hypnotic space where
Yeah.
you are introducing this new belief down into your subconscious is what we're really attempting to do there. And obviously people can say it more than 9 times. That was just, the short for the short version for this interview. But so they can say it however many times they feel to intuitively say it. But then that release with that breath, that's releasing the old paradigm. That's releasing what are the things in there that don't resonate with that don't believe with that. So he's also saying it's really important to take those deep breaths in the beginning before you want to practice hypnosis. This is really what he's calling it, which is really inserting those new beliefs down into your subconscious mind. Take those deep breaths just to quiet your mind and quiet your body and your emotional field and your energy field as well. He's also saying to do this in a protective space. They always say that. So, but that just means before you begin, or even with your breath, you can even envision that as you're doing the deep breathing in the beginning, that your breath is going out into the space, and you are producing this white light from your inner being to surround yourself in this protective space. So he's saying to use your breath. And then that last breath is, again, this release of the old paradigm. And he's saying it causes the shift. So he's saying that's really important. The first 3 breaths, or however many breaths you feel to take, is to allow yourself to get into a space where you can shift. And then that final release, which he's saying you should just do once, unless you're really feeling an intuition that says you do more. If not, then just do it the one time, because he's saying it presents this like finality of, okay, I'm releasing the old, and I have shifted. Basically, it's also like training yourself to say, I accept, I allow, I accept, I release the old. I'm shifting into this new perspective. So that's the exercise that he is giving us.
Well, thank you, Fungitale, and thank you, Anna, for channeling Fungitale, and to the whole council for the assistance to Earth, and to everybody and their guides who have been guided to this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it benefits you. And
yeah, it's a group participation for sure. And even though we're obviously recording this in a totally different time, maybe somebody watches this 2 or 3 years from now, still there's that energy even right now, because all time, like he said, the illusion of time, we create this linear illusion of time when it's all really one still image. So everybody is vibing together whenever they come to this video, whenever they're listening, if they do the exercise, whenever they do the exercise, it's as if we're all doing it together, so there's that added benefit, that added energy. Like you said, we all help one another, we all uplift each other. So
it's wonderful, and I'm grateful, and thank you for participating.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, for doing this interview with me. I definitely really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.